Good evening, everybody. This is Pradeep Mal, Ambassador of Change from GETI. GETI is the Global Education and Training Institute from Lucknow, and you are on our disruptive education platform provided to us by our mentor, Dr. Sunita Gandhi. This is where we meet educators from India and all over the world, and we've had more than 1,000 such interactions. And today we have for you Mrs. Surya Gayatri Kumar, JK, and she's a freelance trainer and has this group called the Sherpa's Skilling Solutions from Hyderabad, Telangana. She has 20 years of experience as a skills and communications trainer. She has worked with institutions like IBM Global Service, Amazon, Genpact, SynchroServe, NSDC, Secure24, etc. She believes in growing by helping others grow, especially those with the zeal to grow. Her students are all over the globe. Her trainees include entrepreneurs, doctors, senior management, trainers, and others. She specializes in soft skills, CR programs, English speaking in all its various aspects, motivational sessions, PD, BPO services training, TTT trainer, F&B, basic etiquette, PDOT, and POSH. Some of these maybe she'll tell you about later. Well, welcome, ma'am, and she will be speaking to us on how neglecting and ignoring your child is worse than physical punishment. So, thank you, ma'am, and over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Mall. Well, I'm really obliged to you, Mr. Mall and Getty, for giving me this opportunity to connect with everyone during this pandemic scenario. So, a very good afternoon, should I say, very good evening to everyone, people. I'll not take much of time, but then today we are covering a very, I would say, a very delicate topic, which is related to parenting. Many of us, you know, during our teenage, we watch parents, and then one day we also would have, many of us would have even imagined, one day I will be a father, one day I would be a mother, because parenting is such a beautiful, nurturing kind of a responsibility. But to the dismay of few kids, it doesn't happen. Why is the question now? The question is that uh, I would take a scenario of few cases that had come to my desk as a counselor, where the son approaches me and he says that, "Ma'am, I need help because my father doesn't understand me." Now, that was a very weird kind of a statement coming from almost an adult who is near his 40s. I was surprised and I told him that, okay, tell me, why do you feel so? Then he says, every time I try to tell my father what I have achieved or what I know, he keeps saying, "You don't know anything, just keep your mouth." Now, in a way, he is offended, certainly. Now, this story has been going on with this person since his childhood, who has been ignored by his parents. What has the results? What were the outputs? Now, not every child can take those ignorance as a positive thing. They cannot take it as a challenging, okay, let me take it as a challenge. My father says that, or my mom says that, I can't do this. So let me try and prove them that I can. Now, what is happening over here is, if the child is imbibing a positive attitude, if not at home, but at least at the education point, The child will start developing a challenging kind of a mentality, a trial, and let me keep trying and never giving up. But a point comes that if we still neglect our child's trying, it can lead to a lot of trouble over a period of time. Now, uh, I really, felt very bad for this person, and I told him like, okay, can I come to your house? Can I meet your father? He said, sure, I don't mind. So we went a fine day, and just he invited me over for a lunch, and I told him I would come a little early. So I arrived, and I was welcomed by his family. Now, to my surprise, this person is an entrepreneur. He has set up his own entity, self-made person. And his father was right opposite to him, a very orthodox person who is more into, these rituals and all those kind of things. Now, when I started talking to his father, and the first question I asked him is, so, sir, oh, tell me something about your son. The first thing that took me aback was he told me, my son, okay, he started speaking about his son's astrological point of time. Like he is such a signed person. His sign is this. He was born on this particular date. Then I told him that I am here not to understand his, birth information. I just want to know his nature as a father. What have you understood? He said, what do I have to understand about him? He was born and he grew up, and even today he doesn't know anything. Then I understood that, okay, something is wrong with the father. I became a family friend of theirs, and in one of my visits, I asked him very casually, so, uncle, tell me about your life achievements, and how come you're such a famous personality? And how did you achieve all this? Like, you do so much of uh, mm, rituals, you know so many slokas, you know Gita by heart, and you do so much of astrological thing. So, in such a short span, how did you learn all this? Then it came the real story. It seems when he was pretty young, his father was the person who was on the same line, but he never encouraged him. And whatever this person, like uncle, wanted to do, uh, he wouldn't encourage him, and he would say that you don't know anything, you cannot do, you are incapable, you just take my work as a hereditary and continue it as a family business. But this person wanted to achieve something more beyond, and it seems at a very mid young age, teenage, at the age of 15, he left his house, and he challenged his father that someday when I come back, I would be what I want to be. And his father used to abuse uncle a lot. So that's where I got to know that when he left the house at the age of 15, he was already ignored. He was not recognized with his inner capabilities, his interest. That, instead of understanding, instead of building it into a challenging kind of a mentality, like, no, I will not do this to my kids, he continued doing that, and that reflected on his son's career. Many a times, parents fail understanding what is it that the child needs. They also misinterpret their behaviors. Now, when we say neglecting and ignoring your child, um, guys, I don't know how many of you would agree with me, but this itself, neglecting and ignoring your child, come on, in itself is a very negative statement. It's a very negative one line statement. How can you do that? See, many a times when a child says that, my parents don't care about me, that itself means it's a one word means neglecting and ignoring. They don't care. I stay in a gated community, and I've come across very small kids where, when I love kids, so I approach them. And when I asked a boy, like, hi, how are you? He's like, who are you? Why you ask me? So I told him that I'm your mom's friend because I know his mom. And he said, so go and talk to my mom. Why are you talking to me? What do you want? I said, nothing, beta. I'm just out of fun. You were playing, so I just said hi. Like he just walked up, and then the moment I observed him, I sat in that park, for some time. I thought, okay, let me see what is his attitude. I sat there and I was surprised. He pulled out a currency note of 200 rupees. There were two currencies in his hand, and he started showing to his friends, saying that, hey, you know what? My mom gave this before going to office, and she said you can buy anything. So what? Tell me, what do you guys want? Because it's a gated community, we have eateries. So he said, come, let's go have some ice creams and all that. And he was like, this kind of attitude was really, I was pretty taken aback, and I really felt sorry for the child because he's learning to buy things, to make friends, or get um, you know, um, his things done. These are the kids who become, bribe takers, or they will only depend on money. For them, everything is money. So this is how, like, when I will not, pardon me, I'm not blaming the modern parents where, because unless and until both parents do not, work today's time, we are in such a uh, sad scenario that unless and until in a family of four, if three don't earn, they can't have a proper living. So, but what I'm trying to tell you is, if let both parents, work, but they certainly need to make an alternate arrangements, because today's time we are lucky to have, moving further we will have, India will start having openings for work from home. So I would request parents to, take rules, because kids are not your asset uh, to, do something or serve you in the future. They are an asset for themselves, and they are an asset of reflection of who you were and how you brought them up. So we need to be mentally, very strong when we bring up kids, because keep one thing in mind. This is to all the parents and parents to be, that for a child, parents is the entire world. For them, their parents are walking encyclopedia. Any question that comes to their mind could be anything, like, why does a cat mew? Why doesn't it bark? Papa, why am I, why do I have to wear t-shirts and pants? Why can't I wear frocks like a girl? What is different? What difference does it make me being a boy and she is a girl? How are babies born? So in such a case, many parents feel very delicate, and they are like, "Jao jao, khelo, go, go play." They ignore the question. That's wrong. And don't give them any kind of, crow stories, like, crane stories, sorry. Like, it was a crane that comes and, flies, the bird comes and, mama sits in the hospital, and the crane comes and he gives the baby and all that. Let's not keep them in dark. Let's start educating them in a much better sophisticated way, where you speak the truth of life with a very polished modulated form. um, let's say, for example, a kid walks, like I had my nephew, and my sister is a teacher. So one day my nephew walked up to my sister and her husband. They were sitting, it was a week off, So he just walked up and suddenly he had this question, Mama, how will babies born? He was just hardly a 7 years old child. And something must have triggered amongst kids. Some question must have come that, triggered him to ask this question. Now, instead of ignoring him, instead of asking him to go and play and tell him that, what kind of question are you asking? Immediately, my brother-in-law took the son to his arms and he said, come sit here, I'll tell you. Me and your mom, ours is a love marriage. So the first time when we fell in love, it was very beautiful. So the love grew so deep and deep that from that love, we started making beautiful, wonderful love world. And you were born from that love. Child said, what is love? There is constant a chain reaction. A child's mind is the most beautiful thing. Now, if you're ignoring your child's questions, um, that means either you're an illiterate person or an incapable person, or you're facing off from your own self, or you're facing off from learning. Because there comes a point when we adults forget being a childlike. And we forget that we can continue being a childlike by interacting with kids. I'm as a trainer, many things I've learned from my own students, from my own children. Trust me, guys, there's nothing much best than, interacting with your kids, spending more time with them and trying to understand how to answer their questions through various sources, because we have wonderful technology today, using all kinds of Google and everything. So let's start not, neglecting and ignoring your child, because I'm sure every one of us would have gone through some taunting in our lives. Like, you are such a useless fellow. You are a trash. Oh, you are such a lazy girl. You don't know how to do this. You don't know how to do that. Now, what happens is, as a child is growing, their mind is getting nurtured. It is, it is so very uh, pure. It's like just an A4 white sheet paper where whatever you write or scribble in form of words gets imprinted in their mind for the rest of their lives. Guys, do you know that from the age of 5, there's a certain age, 1 to 5, whatever you do, your actions speaks a lot. Cuddling a child, people, even doctors says that the more you cuddle your child, relationship between the parent and the child grows deeper and deeper. Yes, touch, touch, that really gives a tremendous and a very strong feeling. From 5 to 10, you start teaching them how to speak. They also, they struggle to speak and get to know new words. So that's a period when you have to be very careful of not being abusive, not being, not using negative talks, negative statements, scolding your kids or ignoring them when, if they, like, if they're doing anything wrong. But instead, you should stand up very strong and correct them, make them understand the difference between right and wrong, because the mind is developing, the brain is developing. When the brain is developing, whatever you imbibe at that age, at that very tender age, you know, that sits in their mind. How many of you, I don't know, like, this is a very, very straight question. How many of you remember your childhood right from the age of 3 and 4 till date? Honestly, I do. I remember every of those. My father has been into the central government service and he has been moving many cities, states, and across India. Trust me, guys, I remembered the house when I was 3. And I remember the last house when I was maybe, I remember almost every house. I remember every city where I had gone. I remember all my friends. Now, it is not out of, not because I have very good memory or something. You don't have to have a good memory. It's out of, that's the kind of nurturing that has come. My mother is a teacher, and she had never neglected me. She always had attended to all my questions, all my queries, all my actions. And she understood. So um, she always used to observe me in every of my action, and then relevant to that, she helped me connect with that particular activity. For example, writing on the walls, they scribble a lot, doing drawings, various kinds of, drawings and scribbling. Give a chance to your child, ask your child to, draw something on a paper, and trust me, connect them to an art school, and you never know. They might be very good in artwork. Some kids are very, very good by the age of 7, 8. They're very good with their culinary arts. So many kids are going on live YouTube, and they're learning. When the parents are not around, they're doing all fireless cookings. They're learning things, and that's because they're being encouraged. Words are the more powerful tool in the world, uh, because words means a lot to everybody's life. It connects and disconnects people. Now, it's simple. When you say something to your child orally, it sits in their mind, and the action gets reflected when they're completely grown up. They have their responsibilities. If anything, if their bring up has been very negative, trust me, guys, as parents, it's we who are going to suffer, because it is not their mistake, it's our mistake. We have killed our future along with theirs. So if you recognize them, because see, physically, maybe a child does something repeatedly, they do, and yes, it is quite a human that we do lose our patience at a point, but that doesn't mean that we always keep losing our patience. Okay, so at that moment, you slap them once, or you hit them once, or you hold them tightly and show them a way, don't do this. You blow your eyes and get angry. But at that moment, whatever you say, it goes into the brain, of that tender brain, and it remains there. Trust me, many kids do the same thing with their children. And at that point, when we become grandparents and we tell that, no, you're ignoring your child, you're not listening to him, listen to her, what are you doing? You know, the one and only one line that will keep make, what would they say? You did the same thing to me. So I'm continuing that. This is what I know. So, you know, don't come to a state where at a point you regret being a bad parent. Parenting is not just a responsibility, it's an art. It's a tremendous good creativity. In this bring up simple tips, simple things. Um, don't compare your child with somebody else's performance, because if honestly, and nobody can give a best example for themselves, rather more than themselves. I am horrible in arithmetic. Trust me, my mother never compared me in my childhood like. though my friends were very good with arithmetic, my mother never told me, look at her, look at him, they are doing so good. I'm a teacher. In my class, I had many students, they're all doing such good. And I, being a teacher, my daughter is very weak and in arithmetic, you just get an average scoring. Is that? No, she never complained. But she only told me only one thing, Beta, make sure that at least you don't fail. Just get pass marks, arithmetic. At least if you know that 1 plus 1 is 2 and not 3, it's good enough. And she started observing my progress report as I grew up. And she understood that I'm very good with English language. My father observed it the same. My aunt, who is my mentor, who is my inspiration, she's a professor in English. She observed that though she has this language issue, mother tongue issue. I'm a Telugu person, and I didn't know I even today I don't know how to read and write Telugu. I can only speak, and that too learned speaking because it was for my again for bread and butter. Because from northeast I moved down to south, and I'm in Hyderabad, and Hyderabad is a Telugu speaking region. So after 22 years of my learning, I had to learn another new language. So don't stop learning. So in that nurturing, what happened is my parents, my mother especially, she supported me in such a wide range that I have no regrets. And I do the same thing to all my students. I'm not a mother yet, but I am. I became a mother the first day of my training because every student came with a question, and I used to always welcome them with a, you know, curiosity is what question is this child going to ask me? So even today, I have trained more than maybe 2,800 students in my 2 decades of career personally, maybe more, countless otherwise. But then these students had the zeal, to grow in life. And trust me, the kind of questions they used to ask, some questions, I had the biggest challenge. I had to do a lot of research and get back to them. But never ignored any of my student who's my child. Each and every of my child is very successful today, and globally they are working in various parts of the globe, and in India they're very successful today. I'm thankful to God that my parents, especially my mother, because see, a child most of the time they spend their time with the mother. So I'm really thankful to my mother because she observed me a lot. She only tried to understand me, and then she helped me join many art schools. So that made me, during the before the introduction, or we started the session, Mr. Mall was asking me, how come you did so many certification? Well, I just did them because I was encouraged with the interest that I had in me, because I was not ignored by my mom, and my talent was introduced to me that yes, you can do this, go ahead and do it, by my mother. So what happens is, when there are two things, when you abuse your child verbally, they will remember and they will continue the same, because brain is the most powerful tool, and I'm sure every one of us would you know um, believe this, and you will really accept it, because it is the brain of a human being which is the reason of construction and destruction. So if you construct the growing brain of your child physically, and sorry, if you nurture the mental ability of your child, then a child will grow up to be an ultimate achiever. They will not have any complaints, no regrets. And I'm sure when you touch an age where you become a grandparent, you will also have no regrets, because who you are today, what you do today, gets reflected in your child when they become a parent. Physical punishment is like, chalo, murga ban jao. In school days, teachers used to do that. Today, when we recollect, oh, I was a murga, and we laugh. But when parents hit a child for no reason, they have that question, and someday they will repulse back to us. They will ask us that question: why did you hit me when I was correct? And that will not leave us. So, physically abusing, punishing a child is bad, but when you keep on taunting that, no, you can't do this, you are incapable, you just don't know how to do this, even when they are grown, a mother hitting a teenage kid is, I don't think that's parenting. you know Befriend your child, try to understand them, be a good parent. And to be a good parent, all that you need to do is, what if any negativity had been reflected in your life, understand whether it was good or bad, discuss with people, if not in a straight form, at least try and discuss over some chat room or through friends, and then get to know as to how you can overcome that situation if you're facing the same thing with your child. If your parents were wrong, is what you feel, then you should discuss with people, discuss with counselors. How do I handle the situation? Guys, being a parent, as I opened my statement initially, I started the session, it's an art. And an art can be mastered with only when you have an open mind, when you discuss things, when you have a challenge or a question from your child, by not ignoring, but rather, if you know the answer, you think you can give it, give it. If not, then park the answer, because a parent is not just somebody who's given birth to a child. They are the farmers nurturing that plant to grow, to become a beautiful tree that would be giving shade and bear fruits and beautiful flowers in future for you and for those who trust your child. Because positive, positive parenting is nothing but trust. A trust that a child has in his or her parents, a child has in their parents. And remember this line, guys. For a child, parents are the first and the last option. For them, the entire circle of globe starts from their parents and ends with their parents. So, next time when you have your kid coming up with a question, don't neglect them. If you're busy, cut your and attend your child immediately. And if your meeting is very important, tell your child very softly, Beta, I'm in a meeting. And write that question immediately. If you always have, like, I'm sitting here speaking to you guys, but I always carry a pen and a paper. So immediately write down what the question your child had asked and get prepared to answer your child. Make sure that any question that your child asks, right from the moment they start speaking, till you become a grandparent. Answer with positivity, confidence, and creativity with reasonable and real time supportive examples so that they understand. So, this is all I would say, that all the very best, because it's a pandemic scenario and wonderful opportunity for parents and children to come together. Any kind of discrepancies in any family, this is the time you come back and bond with each other just through communication. Open up, speak, you know, uh, throw ego into your bins, because ego will not feed you, it will not help you solve your solutions or solve your problems. It will, in turn, ego will only keep, you know, uprooting unwanted issues. Instead, be grounded, because the most successful people in the world are parents, and they are very successful parents, giving the world their reflection in form of their kids. So I um, stand here, and I stop here today, because this is such a wonderful topic that I got today to share with everyone. I don't know if I was able to put it across, but everybody is most welcome to, you know, ping me or chat with me with my contact numbers on my WhatsApp. And Mr. Mall would be able to share my details, so you can question me. And it's simple. To be a good parent is to be a good human, and you are the mirror who is throwing their own reflection into the society. Remember one thing: whatever you do, the world knows, because your child is out there reflecting your actions and repeating what you teach them within the four walls. So be very careful, be creative, be positive, be a sponge type absorbing kind of a person. Take things in a positive way with any random question, any odd question, any kind of question. A question always has an answer. So don't look at a question with a surprise when a child walks up to you, because that is called nurturing the plant. Because when you give them the right answer, you're giving a very good soil to your child to grow healthy, stronger, and useful for the world and the society. This is for every mother. People say, even like, you know, everybody says that a woman, an educated woman, or, you know, a girl born is a mother by birth. And if a girl is educated, she educates a family. And few families, educated families put together, become a society. And that in turn leads to a nation's build. So it's not just for the women, but also to men in today's time, because as I said, whatever you do in front of your child gets imbibed. So if you are neglecting the presence of your child when you're arguing, fighting, drinking, or watching something which is not correct or appropriate, or, you know, speaking something which is not discussing things, or, you know, chit chatting something negativity about neighbors or something, no. Make sure that you're not neglecting the presence of your child around. You have to be very careful. You should not ignore that your child doesn't understand. They do more than us. So, all the very best to parents, and utilize this pandemic scenario to understand your children or your child more closely and build a beautiful golden bond, because your future lies in their hands and they are the reflection of your past and your behavior of today. They are your tomorrow. Thank you so much. I have a question. I know many children who are so different from parents. How can we explain this if, according to you, children reflect our bring up? Right. This is Girija Rao. Right. Yes, children are very different. It is not a mandatory that if I'm a scientist, my son has to be a scientist or my daughter has to be a scientist. If it's very simple. Um, if I'm thinking onto the north zone, my child must be thinking about the south zone only. How? As I just mentioned in during this talk, that they are very open to the education line. The teachers, the society reflects the questions, and their behavior comes from the outside world, outside our house. So when they step out, 90% of their time they're spending among various kind of culture, different kind of set of minds, which certainly would make a child to be very different from that of the parents. You don't have to panic at that point. You just have to do is understand that difference. Where is that difference? And the solution would be the bridge, how you bridge between you and them. Because as long as you have that sort of, mindset that, uh, as Mrs. Rao, you're saying that they're very different. Have you ever questioned that how different they are? I'm sure they might not be negative, but you might love roses and your child must be loving jasmine. They might be allergic to roses. Why? Over here, it could be the genes, scientific, or it could have been some scenario, maybe in certain thing. Maybe the child has gone to some place where it was jasmine, which was very pleasant to them, but roses were not very welcoming. Maybe he had some very bad, experience. So you need to understand, how do I make my child like roses? But if you are failing, if your trials, repeated trials are failing, I would say that at that point it's best to keep that difference, that change in your child, in your mind, and not bring up every time, but whenever, observe your child, and whenever you get the opportunity, question them. Some answers, it is not a mandatory that parents know everything. Sometimes kids hide many things, and you need to ask them in a very, very, a very diplomatic form, where they don't, where they come up with the thing that, why are you this? Why are you doing this? Then they certainly would say that I like doing it, or because I don't like you doing this, that's why I'm trying to stop it. I'll tell you one simple example, Mrs. Rao. Um, right from childhood, my husband um, has been right opposite to his father. Uh, my father-in-law is a very poised person, and he always wanted his son, to get into that poised kind of a temple religion. But he wanted him to become a priest like him. But my husband was right opposite, and he was a very different person. And his father always, my father-in-law always used to tell him that, are you really my son? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Today, um, my father-in-law is very proud, because my husband is not a priest. He is an independent, I would say, an entrepreneur who has his own setup of manufacturing unit. He's a manufacturer of LED lights. And My father-in-law only has one regret is I wish I could have understood your abilities uh, that were very different from that of mine because we have set of rules. It's not a mandate that these rules should be absorbed by our children. They could be different. Um, and that is a difference that we need to understand as parents and take help over here. When you don't know how to handle, there's no, there is no ego or you should not feel bad. There are child psychologists, counselors available. Uh, get in touch with them as to how do you overcome this kind of understanding. And I'm sure you will find a solution, Mrs. Rao, to help those kids born with their parents and make those parents understand that though their kids are different, but they're certainly not on a negative path. So if supported, they certainly will rock the world. I hope I answered your query, Mrs. Rao, Mrs. Girja Rao, right? Any other questions?
Thank you, ma'am, for that very lucid talk, which was absolutely down to earth. And this is the way it has to be because we can't scare anybody when it comes to a topic like this. And you have handled it very, very, very astutely as well as lucidly. So down to the point, ma'am. And thank you so much for this topic of yours, and how neglecting and ignoring your child is worse than physical punishment. People don't realize how deeply psychologically you hurt, or maybe they do and they like doing that. Okay, so these are both relevant aspects, but psychologically you are hurt much, much more than you are hurt when you're physically, unless the physical transforms to the psychological. So thank you so much, ma'am, and good evening, everybody who's watching. And another thank you to our mentor, Dr. Sunita Gandhi, without whom we would not be able to meet interesting people like Dr. Surya. And Global Education and Training Institute is committed to transforming education and transforming teaching practices. So do watch out for and enroll in GETI teachers training programs. The pre-service program will be starting soon, and we have other programs for you which may suit your site. So please look for those. And for details, visit our website getilearn.org, GETILEARN.org, or call 740-840-1000. Thank you ever so much, everybody, and especially Ma'am Surya. And goodbye, good night. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moll, and bye to everyone.